To look at a relationship as a relationship, specifically as one thing, is kind of myopic. A relationship is a multitude of things, and people might not like these analogies, but in one particular analogy, it's not really going to be liked by probably the modern feminists, but it's a combination of analogies. And one of them is a relationship is like a job, okay? And I would say it's more like a job, okay? And I'll explain that in a minute. It's also a partnership, okay? It's also like a team spirit environment, okay? And when it comes to a work environment, okay, there's a situations where you have a boss, you have an employee, okay, so, and you know, there will be times where whoever the boss is of the relationship, usually it's the man. More nowadays, more than ever, there's a lot of women who are running relationships. That's fine. Probably most of those end in failure, but okay. And there's one person who's making most of the decisions, probably most competent, and then you have somebody who is leading to make sure that that is functioning properly. And then sometimes the roles are reversed when specific things, okay? And I use that analogy because in a relationship, there's a lot of times where we get into this habit that, especially when it comes to young women, where young women will say a lot of different things and behave in a lot of ways to their partners that they would never even do to their boss. So it's like we actually put the work environment on a pedestal, and we put the relationship in a lower rate than the work, than the environment and the behavior that we have even if we were at work. So that's why I say it's forget about thinking of a relationship as a relationship. You should actually think of it as work environment, because when your boss tells you to do something, you do it. You don't backtalk. You don't get smart. You don't get fresh. And even if you don't want to do it, you say, hey, you know what? I don't really feel like doing this, but I'm just going to go ahead and do it anyway. Right?
Mm-hmm.
Because it's required of you.
Right.
Because it's needed of you. So
Yeah.
why wouldn't you give that same respect to your man? Okay. Then on top of that,
100%.
it's looked at as a partnership. Okay. When you have a financial or company partnership, for example, you have two partners. One is more competent in one thing. The other partner is more competent in another thing. And they compromise and they work together to get a desired outcome. That might be $100 million at the end of the year. That might be whatever. Okay. It might be in a relationship. We're going to get together to get a house. Okay, I'm going to be making all the money. I'm going to be doing all the overtime. But I need you to make sure that, hey, when I come home, things are in order. You're allowing the household environment for me to be stress-free so I can do all this overtime, and supporting each other. And the other aspect is a team environment, a group environment. And the team environment is you have a team captain. You have somebody who's leading, who's playing, who's calling all the shots, and or the coach. But the person playing center, their position is not less significant than the person playing point guard, because without the point guard to throw the ball to the center for the alley-oop to dunk it, there is no game being won by that team. It's you versus it's the team versus other teams. So when you look at it that way, a partnership, you building a company together as a partnership to take on other companies, you having a team to beat other teams, working together, whether you like to or not. When your captain says do something, you do it so you can win the game. A job, right? Knowing that I signed up for this, to know that I work this position, these are my boss, and I'm supposed to follow their direction, do what they say, even if I actually don't feel like it. So we put all of these different things on a pedestal, while in our relationship we disrespect our other.
Mm-hmm.
We don't listen to what they say. We try to manipulate them. We use innuendo, gossip, character destruction, cunning, guile, Machiavellianism, manipulation, provocation, Women use outward adornment in all sorts of behaviors, uh, shit testing, verbal aggression, in indirect aggression, and
Separate in their workplace.
right, separate from the workplace, because it's obviously used a lot in the workplace as well, and it shouldn't be done. It absolutely shouldn't be done, and young women need to like really think differently about how they're approaching relationships nowadays, because they're getting out of hand. It's absolutely positively disgusting.
Yeah. Like real quick, like you were just the analogy of the work and the relationship, how those two are should be similar. I was just thinking, like, for instance, when it comes to work, two things that come to mind is duty and and loyalty, like loyalty to your job, respect, loyal and respect, and then your duty. So when it comes down to work, you can work at a job and actually be happy and love your job. But in between that, maybe you get a new boss or somewhere where it changes the environment, and now you no longer feel happy at the workplace or even love the job. But guess what? You still have a duty to take your ass to work. And it's funny when it comes to that, people have no problem taking themselves to work.
No
like, well, I
problem.
have to take my work because I got to provide for my kid or I got to pay for my living. So now I have no choice. But even though I don't love the job no more, because maybe my surroundings change. So at one point you were happy. At one point, and maybe now you're no longer, but guess what? You probably do a 20, 30-year career in a job that you don't hate. You hear this all the time, people doing jobs they don't love. But yet when they're in a relationship, well, what is your longest relationship? 6 months, maybe a year, maybe less than that. You hear it all the time, but then you got people that stay in jobs 10, 15, 20, 30 years. So why can't you use that same concept in your relationship? Duty and loyalty. Because at the end of the day, if you have those two things, it's my duty to stay in this relationship and make it work, just like I make it work at my job. So back to the point of, listening to what you said, that whole spill, like, yeah, you're right. The job concept should be in a relationship because we're already doing it. And that's something we can all relate to and understand. So why not use that in the, in your personal, your personal lives in your relationships?
Yeah.
It's a more sustainable model.
It is. And why would you put a boss on a higher pedestal than you would put your man, for example?